Welcome in to the third episode, maybe fourth, of Need for Seeds. As you can see, this is a normal day for us, dressed up, wearing sunglasses as we podcast, because today is the Maui Invitational edition of Betting the Pitch Need for Seeds College Basketball Edition. I'm with my co-host at Big East Ben. If you're not following him on Twitter, just do it. I am the real _ you weren't on Twitter, as you probably know, Patreon, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. Also, give our podcast at Need for Seeds a follow on Twitter as well. Thank you for tuning in with us. We're doing this a little bit early, but we're getting everyone ready for the Avoid Your Families and Thanksgiving time college basketball tournament. We're going to go through the futures because there are prices out for winner of the tournament, plus the first round games, and pick you some best bets and get out of here. Big East Ben, how's it going so far?
Going great. Excited for the best regular season tournament in college basketball, and it is a loaded field.
Loaded field that has the Big East Ben's national champion in it, actually. But we'll start with some futures prices, which I don't know how long Bet Online has been doing this, but and I'm not sure. It might be better at your book if they're doing it. No idea, but check that out if you're there. I'm going to start with where we had openers. So KU, Kansas is we'll start open as a favorite, 2-1. That's since come down, been bet a little bit, maybe off of their so-so performance in the Champions Classic. I wouldn't call it a good one. Purdue, second favorites, Marquette, third favorite, Tennessee, then Gonzaga, UCLA, and finally Syracuse. Unfortunately, my co-host asked what the Chaminade line was, and I think they just give you a burning money emoji instead. Got any interest on, and I guess I'll tell you who's been bet a little bit. KU's come down a little. Purdue has, as well as has Tennessee. So while Marquette has climbed a little bit, as has Gonzaga, UCLA, and Syracuse after nearly losing to Colgate in what ended up becoming a huge nail-biting against the spread win for me, but one that I was losing my mind over. So Benny Boy, what do you think about this tournament? I know Marquette is your pick for the national champion, an unbiased pick at that. What do we think about, I guess, Marquette's? Let's start with Marquette's chances in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the individual game, but I hate the matchup with UCLA. They are big. They are a big team. The U should stand for United Nations with all the foreigners they got on their team, but they are big. They are strong, and we know about Marquette's troubles with offensive rebounding. So, again, excited to be in the tournament, but hate the matchup.
I get it. The nice part on their side of the bracket, though, is if they do get through UCLA, which I expect them to be a favorite, then they likely get Kansas, who is the favorite to win the whole thing. But it's, I think, a lot because they're playing Chaminade in the opener. As a Texas alum, unfortunately, I've seen what happens when you lose Chaminade and how it tanks your program, gets your coach fired, and things of that nature. But I guess we'll see. I mean, rooting for that upset, of course. I think anyone who's not a Rock Chalk Jayhawk fan. On the other side of the bracket, Tennessee, Syracuse, and then Purdue, Gonzaga. It feels to me Tennessee's got the easiest of the early matches. I think Purdue, Gonzaga is going to be a great one. Do you have any interest in, UCLA at 20-1 odds? I'm a long shot player, as you know, so that's a huge number. But even if they do get through Marquette and what should be an upset in the first game, if that occurs, of course, then they have to get through Kansas, which I feel like is a really tough road, especially coming off what's likely an easy first round victory. Who do you think in the top half of the bracket? We start with Purdue, Gonzaga as the early matchup, and then start with Tennessee, Syracuse, and then go to Purdue, Gonzaga. What of those four teams do you think are the most interesting to potentially get through their first? Is it Tennessee?
I love Tennessee. Again, I gave them out last week against Wisconsin. I also gave out the under as my best bet. Did not recognize either of those two teams with the pace they were playing at. Even Wisconsin, Chucky Hepburn was flying around. They were pushing the pace. When they played Providence, got blown out. They look more like the traditional Wisconsin team that I'm used to being lulled to sleep by. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee's legit. They didn't even have Vescovi.
Yep.
Vescovi. He didn't play in that game, and they still rolled. Dalton connects for real. That guy is awesome. I don't know how he ended up at Northern Colorado initially, but he can ball. So yeah, I don't know if we're going to futures right now, but Tennessee is my pick to win the Maui Invitational. I put a future on them right after that Wisconsin game to win the whole thing. Um, Talking national championship. I love the Volunteers.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to hear what number you got Providence College to win the championship after they absolutely throttled what to me looked like a really poor Wisconsin team. Was my best bet for that day. I did pick Providence, and that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I think really because Wisconsin went back to lulling you to sleep because they couldn't make shots. But we'll see what happens in this tournament and see if that Tennessee result was more of a Wisconsin thing on the road than a Tennessee thing. But Syracuse, honestly, I mean, trailing by 24 points to Colgate at home could have lost 3 straight seasons to Colgate if just a couple things went right and maybe Colgate was able to handle a pressure that they knew was coming with timeouts that they decided not to use. When I think about the Tennessee at plus 325 to win. I had it on Halloween when I tracked these initially at Tennessee 5-1 odds. So it makes sense that they're coming down a little bit. I think a lot of that becomes the side of the bracket they're on. If you're not taking Tennessee in that area, I feel like you probably are trying to pick a winner between Purdue and Gonzaga, which to me is going to be a really hard one to call. I think what we do probably, since this is a Maui invitational episode, we can kind of cut through and go into the games now, and then come back with some future stuff later, and we can pick best bets from futures or from straight bets, whatever you like. And we'd love to predict what future game lines will be, but I think that's not worth it until it actually occurs. So for the first game that we're going to go over, and I'll give a Torvik line as well. I made Tennessee a 5-point favorite against Syracuse. What do you think about Syracuse getting 5 points from Tennessee?
You sure about that?
I could be way off. It sounds like I am.
Are you talking about Purdue Gonzaga or Tennessee Syracuse?
I am talking Tennessee Syracuse, and appears
You have it at 5 points.
That feels like a really bad number.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's say Mr. Torvik and I don't agree. So I see Syracuse they're a 12-point underdog to Tennessee, according to our guy Bart. I will admit, considering he had Princeton, who led wire to wire against Duquesne as a 9-point underdog. Not sure what to say about that one, but maybe was expecting a little bit of love for Syracuse on the island. Okay, so that's bad number. So let's go with, I'll start with Torvik's then and then embarrass myself less. So Syracuse getting 12 points. You think that's beyond fouling range? They can hang in and cover that spread as long as they're not getting blown out early.
Yeah, I mean, they have looked very underwhelming for a 3-0 team. 11-point win over UNH, 12-point win over Canisius, and then that miracle comeback against Colgate. Not shooting the ball well. They lost, the Edwards guy and the Gerard guy. That's like 30 points per game. They kind of filled it in with a hodgepodge of transfers from good schools, but I don't think the players are actually good. You have a Kansas guy in there. You have a Texas Tech guy in there. So obviously going to take a lot for those guys to match. I just think Tennessee is so explosive now with Connect. I know it's a big number, 12 or 14 according to KenPom, but I think they blow them out. I mean, Syracuse, they're playing man now, so I mean that takes a little bit to get used to as well after 35 years of Jimmy B in his 2-3 zone.
Yeah, they might want to try that 2-3 zone because Tennessee struggles to shoot. Yes, you'd probably get killed on the rebounding glass, but I feel like you'd probably expect that from a Tennessee matchup anyway. Now I go, I guess, next along to Purdue and Gonzaga, which is probably going to be the closest of all games. Let's hope, considering we have a Marquette future in this chat. I made Purdue a 2-point favorite, which is a little bit cheap, apparently, because Torvik has Gonzaga a 5-point underdog, so that would make Purdue a 5-point favorite. What do we think about the Zags and their attempt to dethrone a Zach Edey giant-led team? I wonder how many rows on that plane out to I guess the tournament's technically not in Maui this year. It's in Hawaii, but it is, I think, on the main island of Honolulu, or it's on one of the other islands because Maui had too much damage in the fires. But there's a big guy going out there, a giant named Zach Edey. How do you think the Gonzaga Bulldogs can handle him without Drew Timme for the first time, what feels like since Jim Boeheim started coaching?
Yeah, I mean, all these games are hard. I don't know if you see my hair, but I pulled out every single drop of Suavecito pomade looking at these lines. That's how hard these games are. Purdue Gonzaga, like you said, tight spread. You have it at 2. Ken Plum has it at 3. Torvik has it at 5. Uh, Matchup of 1 versus 2 offenses in the country. I know it's early. Obviously, these teams played each other in Portland last year, with Purdue absolutely throttling the Zags on their way to a championship in that tournament. Not only lose Timmy, they also lose Strother, who was highly touted, probably didn't play up to expectations, but still a good player. Zags got that Graham Ike from Wyoming to plug
EK.
into Ike, Ike, Graham Ike.
Yes. EK.
To
Yes.
plug
From
into.
Wyoming. Yes.
I don't think he's enough to stop Edey. Runs at 6'9". Um, Both teams don't force a lot of turnovers. I don't think that will be a factor. 3-point defense has actually been a problem for Gonzaga so far this year against pretty inferior opponents. So Purdue can't dump it into the giant. There's opportunity to pop it from long range. Purdue beat them handily last year in the Portland tournament. I don't think it will be as bad as that, but I do think it'll be enough to cover the spread for the Boilermakers.
It's interesting to me from just the complete change in who these teams are. I feel like Gonzaga were a title favorite last season and maybe the title favorite, where, I mean, coming off some really, really dominant seasons, didn't have a great year last year. Purdue going into the year was the same old. I mean, I had put them out at 80-1 to on another college basketball podcast about trying to get some value in a team that really was, I thought, going to outperform expectations. Didn't expect them to basically be the 1 seed. And then, of course, didn't expect them to lose to a 16. But I got to say, it's a complete change in fortunes from where these teams are. I don't know how anybody guards Edey across all of college basketball, because there's no 7'4" type of combination out there with his size. And really the bulk also that comes with 7'4", where most 7-footers are really, really thin and not athletic. I don't know if I'd call Zach Edey athletic, but maybe for his size, I would. EK will be a problem. I think Ben Gregg, who's a 3-point shooting big, who was backing up Drew Timme last year, I think he can potentially stretch the floor and make Zach Edey come out and guard. But I think my big question really is, how short will this line be? Of course, it seems like Torvik is just loving favorites early this season with the numbers he's putting out there. I wonder, I mean, if Purdue are a 3-point favorite, let's say, that probably gets a ton of action on Purdue based on Zach Edey playing for the team, I think. So it probably does come bigger than that. And then you got to decide, do you want to play the foul game late, which I think a lot of times if in a close game and you pick the winner, you probably will get to cover 5 points with all the fouling that happens, especially last game of the night, which I guess this is on is not, but I think that's more for the Marquette one coming up at the end of the show. But just going to be a close game, tough to decide. I think you're ultimately, if you're playing Gonzaga, you're expecting them to neutralize Zach Edey. Either he gets in foul trouble or they're getting at least some sort of benefit from exploiting him hanging near the basket and not trying to guard on the perimeter. So next we'll move to Kansas and Chaminade. I made KU a 22-point favorite. What's your deep down? I mean, were you pulling the pomade out over your Chaminade, whatever, wizard swords, whatever, golden
Silver swords.
Silver swords. There we go.
Yeah. To be honest, I totally forgot about that when they beat Texas. I thought the last one was all the way back in the Ralph Sampson #1 Virginia game. Yeah, I don't know much about the Silver Swords. Kansas did not look great against Kentucky. I mean, Dickinson had a massive game. Wagner had a massive game. Rest of the team, I mean, they really got to thank Reeves on Kentucky for just launching threes at every second possible. I think he ended up 3 for 17.
Not what we call efficiency on the Need for Seeds podcast.
No. I'll take Kansas if you're going to give me 22. But again, but you never know. I mean, Bill Self might take a little bit of like sympathy in that ice cold heart of his against the, you really want to decimate the Islanders that went through such a tragedy a month or two ago? Eh?
Yeah. You might want to make a comp if you're betting Kansas -22. You might want to mention Bill Self's toupee, and then hopefully he'll really lay the throttle down and or just create a Twitter account as if you're from Hawaii, a big Chaminade fan, and maybe that'll happen. I thought there were big problems with Kansas from what I saw. I feel like I really hope their new prized Hunter Dickinson 7-foot product inside keeps stacking up points against a power forward playing center for Kentucky with all the rest of the big guys on the bench. I think that'll only give us value for whoever they get in the second round. So let's get to the biggest game of the first round. And you probably could argue Purdue Gonzaga, but we're not doing that on this show. We're going Marquette against UCLA. I made Marquette a 5-point favorite. Let's see what Torvik embarrasses me with here. I feel like as I load, let's see. Only a 3-point favorite for Marquette. Wow. Barty thinks this is a lot closer than I do.
Yeah, Ken Palm has it at 5. All right, listen. Marquette's defense seems to be improved from last year. It is early, but they are 20th in the country, and they're not relying on forcing turnovers as more as they were last year. Offensive rebounding is still a really big problem. UCLA was pretty good. Obviously, UCLA is a whole new team. They're pretty good at crashing the boards last year, and now they're just even bigger. Marquette's offense, when it's rolling, it's just so beautiful to watch. But what I worry about, and Mick Cronin's a smart guy. He's little, but he's smart. The best way to stop Marquette's offense is to force a Stevie Mitchell open 3-pointer. If you get that, that's better than a turnover. Not really, but that's a big weak spot that I'm worried with Marquette. I really think Shaka needs to think about slotting Chase Ross into the starting line behind Mitchell. But yeah, that's a big worry. So again, UCLA, they lose Hawkes, they lose Campbell, 3 other. I think they lost their top 5 scorers from last year. But they bring in again these international guys. You got the 6'10" kid from Nigeria, who's a force. I think it's like 245. You got the Mara kid who's 7'3". Yeah, listen, Marquette's gonna have to make some threes. It's gonna have to be a David Joplin game, who was absolutely deplorable against Illinois last week. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm going with the Bruins.
Sorry, Dad.
Plus 3 to 5. I just think it's a really bad matchup. And Cronin, UCLA did play Marquette. 1 year with Wojo, 1 year against Shaka, beat him both times. So Cronin has MU's number so far.
Well, yes, Mick Cronin, one of the best, I think, coaches out there as an underdog. I'm not sure necessarily if this team is at that same level. I mean, it's the pure bigs versus littles, and I got to say, in college basketball, I used to be a bigs guy from really bad memories of UNC just playing volleyball on the backboard way back when they started 2 bigs at power forward and center. It seems like a small man's game now, which maybe fits Mick Cronin a little bit, but I do like that combination for Marquette. Basketball, to me, college basketball at least, is a game about guards, and I think that's the most important thing that we got here. Yes, it does seem like offensive rebounds are a problem for Marquette, but that usually means UCLA is missing shots if that's going to happen, and I think you want that to occur. So to me, it feels like Marquette at 5 that I made it. I think I do lean to UCLA just because I think that there's some trouble potentially brewing. But I mean, the Marquette performance at Illinois, pretty much led throughout, had a little bit of a kind of rocky stage in the middle of the game. I felt like, I know you watched it a little bit closer, and started off with an erection initially, and then really loved the spacing and the all 3-point shots and layouts, the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, Big East Ben style later in the after the game. I do remember that things didn't go great after one of those at the end of last season, but ultimately that's all you can ask for, is to take 3-point shots and take shots at the rim. I imagine UCLA will do a lot to try to prevent that. And unfortunately, not playing in that Maui gym. This is not a Maui gym advertisement, but just the gym that was played that hosted games in Maui used to have those really soft rims. So maybe that does potentially make this a little bit more of a big man's game, but still, I imagine do you think he's going to play some zone here to try to make UCLA score from the perimeter?
Possibly. I mean, they threw it in a couple times against Illinois, which was interesting. I would. Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely would. What else? I mean, I haven't watched UCLA. Obviously, they play two cupcakes.
Yep.
Again, these guys are big, but a key point is like how mobile they are. Because if they can quickly close on the Kolek, Iguodaro pick and roll, that's going to be a problem. If they're, lead-footed type guys who, aren't going to be able to crash to the weak side to stop it, then I give the advantage Marquette. Again, this game, no Suavecito, none, gave me a headache to look at. Because again, these uses you look at the height, you look at the weight of UCLA, and it's very intimidating, but you really don't know with these guys.
Yeah. To that point, pick and roll seems to be the hardest thing to defend in all of sports. I wouldn't expect a 6'10" Kenneth Nuba, nor a 6'10" Adam Bona, nor a 7'3" freshman Ade Mara to have much success against what to me is one of the most athletic big guys in all of college basketball. That might be enough to really keep me off UCLA, actually, now that I think about it. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of Need for Seeds. Of course, we are going to give you some best bets in a second. Could be futures, could be sides, whatever is up to you. But thank you for tuning in. All lines are quoted off of Bet Online. There's a promo code in the podcast description for signing up with Bet Online. You get a 50% bonus. Or if you want to double your money, go to Sportsbetting.ag and deposit there. First-time depositors, I know it works for both sites. We'll see about reloads. Could probably slide in some DMs either at Big East Ben or at the @real_G Warner and ask us about that. But now that business is undertaken or that business is done, Big East Ben is 1-0 on his Big East picks this week or this season. Unfortunately, our best bets did not go great. We had an 0-2 last week, but technically 1-3 because Big East Ben is sticking to what he knows and winning conference bets. As I think DePaul looked like they did get their first win a couple nights ago, but not a great start to the year, losing to Long Beach State. And who was the first one?
Fort Wayne Mastodons.
Yes, the IPFW. Not for anyone to get mixed up on any sort of abbreviations, but I'll give it to you, Big East Ben, for your best bet. We might as well pick who you already said Tennessee is going to be your pick to win the Maui Invitational. Give us a best bet. You could go with that if you want to elaborate, give you your 15 seconds of fame, or if you want to go even further and pick something else on that first round. The only thing I don't feel comfortable with is a Chaminade number, but I don't think you're going to take that one.
Now I'm gonna again. I know I got burned on the over under from my best bet last week, but sticking with another over under. I like the over in the Purdue Gonzaga game. KenPom has it at 155. Torvik has it at 151. Again, number one versus number two offensive efficiency teams in the country. I think both teams easily get to 75 points. Hammer the over.
I like it. So, as you just heard, this is Need for Seeds on the Betting the Pitch podcast network. Ben Ulrich, Ben at Big East Ben just gave you the over in the Purdue Gonzaga matchup. I'm going to lay the points in that one as well. I'll take Purdue, maybe up to -5. Would love it at -3, but I kind of talked about earlier, probably the number's not going to be that short, but hoping it will be. I think the biggest question is how they guard Zach Edey. I'm not sure they do it. And I think this is going to be a great tournament, and I'll join Ben on his pick, and I'll go with Tennessee. So we got a double pick on the winner. So probably Tennessee's not going to win it, but based on what we're giving you, take Tennessee +3 3/4, plus 375 to win the Maui Invitational. Say hi to your families at least, and come up with some good excuses to get them out of the way so you can watch the games. And of course, stick with us. Follow us on Twitter at Need for Seeds. Join us for the rest of our episodes coming up the rest of this season. So that'll do it for this episode of Need for Seeds. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we appreciate the support. If you leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and of course, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and you'll see us next week. Most likely, it is a holiday week, but I think we're still planning to get together, try to make something happen. We'll let you know. We shoot for Wednesdays, but sometimes when we can wear our Hawaiian outfits, we got to get ready for Maui when it's coming, and it's coming up fast. So we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, of course, for all the support, and have a great evening.
Mahalo.
Cowabunga!